Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Agile Network India Chennai chapter's event about the new normal trends to watch out for in 2021. It is going to be an interesting panel discussion moderated by Priyank Pathak, who is the CEO and founder of Innovation Roots, and having Venkateshwaran, Bharni, and Sukanya as our panelists. And before we move on to the discussion, I would like to thank our founding sponsors, Innovation Roots, which is one of the leading consulting and training service providers and helps organization achieve business agility and beyond. I would like to thank Agile, which is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services and which is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool with the DevOps capabilities. And without any further ado, I would like to call upon Priyank and all the panelists, Venkateshwaran, Bharani, and Sukanya, to be on the webcam and microphones.
So thank you, Nupur, for hosting us today, and I welcome everybody who is an audience on behalf of ANI and from Chennai chapter. And I welcome Venkat. Before I go to Venkat and Sukanya and Bharini's introduction, let me introduce everybody who is, this guy at this side of the screen. So my name is Priyank. I am founder of Innovation Roots as well as Agile Network India. And primarily, my interventions are to work with the enterprises in coaching and training domains, and that's what I'm doing for many years now. So, and currently, I'm working with two leading firms which are into manufacturing of OEM as well as at the other side in IT and different domains where my role is to give them the advisory. So, with that said, let me welcome. Sukanya first. Over to you, Sukanya, for a brief introduction.
Well, hi everybody. Brian, thank you so much for having me on the panel today. Extremely excited to be interacting with some industry experts here. So I'm Sukanya, and I've been in the industry for over 2 decades, and I have just given few lines in here, so I'll just stick on to that. I have worked with different sorts of companies. I've worked with services, I've worked with captives, and I've worked with product companies. So that is a very interesting journey and kind of understand the different demands of these different types of businesses that are there in IT. And yeah, I'm always looking to use technology. I love technology. I'm like, interested in understanding what are the latest in the data that's happening, but I'm always looking to see how it's going to really help business, help the community, help the society. So that's where my interest lies in. So that's a little bit about myself. Again, very glad to meet you all. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining today's panel, Sukanya. Over to you, Venkat, for a brief introduction.
Thank you, Priyank. My name is Venkat, and I am an organizational development and confidence coach. And I have had quite a few years of experience in the corporate sector, largely in finance and human resources. Now, in my capacity as a coach, I work with senior executives who are disengaged or stagnated in their jobs, or highly stressed, and I help them get their mojo back. And I also conduct some niche programs for companies, especially on vision building and goal setting. Uh, I enjoy reading on a wide variety of topics like management, leadership, biographies, and so on. I'm also published author with 2 books to my credit. That's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Fantastic to know about you, Venkat. So let's go to Bharani now. Bharani, please introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Priyank. And yeah, so I just realized the time. So I'm seeing 40 people who have dialed in during lunchtime. So thank you for giving your attention.
Yeah, we are in between you and your lunch today.
Exactly. Or feel free to have lunch, like this, the informal. Yeah, please. So a little bit about me. Yeah, when I talk about my experience, that gives away my age. But yes, so I've been in the industry for about 22 years now. I started way back as a Win32 programmer. Like, not many people know that domain right now, but the reason why I keep having that in my bio is not because I'm still a fan of Win32, but back in 1999, nobody taught that, right, as a major domain or a career. I picked this on my own, right? So I had a copy of Charles Petzold. I'm self-taught as a programmer, though my background is in computer science. I still consider myself as a self-learner, self-starter, and I always had this passion to observe what's going on, right? So one of the things that naturally happened in ThoughtWorks is, as a techie, all of us have trends that we spot, and we have a list of what is cool, what is not. ThoughtWorks started publishing this 10 years back as a tech radar, and it's most of you would know. If not, I would recommend you to check out. So I'm honored to be part of 20 people who actually put the tech radar out. So that's a little bit about me. In the current role in ThoughtWorks, I now play the head of tech for India. So that's about me, and happy to be here.
Fantastic knowing all three of you. Brilliant panel today. What else I can expect on a Saturday? Author of books and our consultant editor-in-chief, if I'm not wrong. Like you're the in charge is like an editor-in-chief is what you call, Bharini. And then we have a person coming from wealth of knowledge of various domains as Sukanya. So let's begin the discussion. Yeah. I'll set the context. As we see this panel is primarily focused on what are the trends we should look for in 2021, and we begin the 2021 with a lot of energy, a lot of hope, a lot of aspiration that the things will not be same. I personally haven't seen something like 2020 in my life, so it was a challenging year. So with that aspiration, with that energy, we thought of bring this thought process, and we are very thankful to the Chennai chapter who brilliantly crafted this idea, this could be a great beginning for the year as a topic. So we invited this wonderful panel, and everything has changed in 2020. We all know that the way we manage our personal life, the way we manage our professional life, things are changed. The way the enterprises are running themselves and operating has changed. The way we have seen trends like working from home, remote working. Working from home is like a old word now. So remote enterprises would be a new word maybe to coin now. So we have lots of remote workers and people working from home, and that's where the industry is moving forward. So we're going to hear thoughts from these brilliant people, and what would be the trends to watch out for in 2021. That's the context I just wanted to set for all the audience. So beginning with the thoughts, and I have a set of questions which is as an understanding I thought of asking all of you. So the first question which is I have is for Bharini to start with. So Bharini, what are the disruptive technology trends do you think would be we need to watch out in 2021?
Yeah, it's a good one. So historically, when we are in a very testing time, the history has taught us as a lot of innovation has happened because we are pushed by Mother Nature to innovate. So necessity becomes the mother of innovation. From that perspective, though, I don't want to bore the audience with all the tech geeky things and go all in. One thing I feel is going to be really, really disrupted is how, as an individual, we acquire new skills, new capability, and what systems and support the organization can provide to nourish that. Because if you look back, no one planned for this, right? You imagine any change program, any center of excellence or a capability based thing, lots of planning goes into the execution, and you are prepared either through systems or to people organizing things. But all of a sudden, all of us from zero to all in went all remote, and the way you will continuously learn and adapt has to continue, right? All of us are in this phase of continuous learning, and the systems that we have, the learning management systems, or there are new acronyms in the space, right? So, and there are new standards, but actually watch my kids attend school. Not to blame them because we did not plan. The best live room experience they have is probably a video and a live chat, right? I'm sure as an industry we can do better than that. So the first answer a long answer. Yeah, I think the whole learning and capability space is going to be disrupted.
Fantastic. So as we hear from you about the way the learning will happen will be disrupted completely, we'll go to Venkat now and ask you, Venkat, what are your views, Venkat, about this topic, if you have any?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll talk about it from a user's perspective. I'm not a techie really, and can't say anything more or better than what Bernie did. But I think what the way technology will move is basically to give a user an overall experience. It'll sort of combine different experiences, like say customer experience, employee experience, and user experience, to basically transform business outcomes. That is one. So the goal basically is to improve overall experience. The second thing is in recent times we've been seeing and hearing a lot of privacy concerns, right? Especially with Facebook announcing the new policy on WhatsApp and so on. So I think one trend I see is basically providing a trusted environment where sensitive data can be processed or analyzed, and a place where companies can collaborate on research, especially in times like COVID and even with competitors, without sacrificing on confidentiality. So this is basically, so I'm talking about sharing data while maintaining privacy or security. So these are the couple of things I had.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Venkat. So I'll ask the same question to Sukanya now. Sukanya, according to you, what are the trends we can watch in 2021? Tech trends,
Yeah,
disruptive trends.
so something that has been disrupting and that's going to continue to disrupt is data and AI, ML, and that space. But what will be interesting to watch out is the fact, like what I'm just going to add on to what Barney just said, that we will be seeing these technologies being used in different use cases, especially in terms of learning, right? So in the current situation after the pandemic or during the pandemic, we're having a little bit of difficulty in ensuring that we are able to upskill people who are working in our organization. So I'm sure we will be looking at these technologies, like for instance, computer vision. So those kind of technologies which will come very handy in improving the overall learning experience. So that is something which we will definitely see some newer platforms coming up in that space. And besides that, the other thought I had was, again, this pandemic has put in a situation where a lot of companies are expected to become digital overnight, right? So the kirana shop, everybody had to suddenly become digital, right? So I think there are going to be situations where you are going to have to respond to situation in a very, very short period of time, because of which I'm thinking businesses will start to embrace low-code platforms and no-code platforms to be able to churn out solutions faster. So those are the two
Fantastic.
trends I'm thinking.
Fantastic. So I just summarized for the audience as all of you are talking. So Venkat spoken about the experiences and the security part of the data and the environments. Bernie spoke about the way the learning will happen, and we have our own family facing that challenge, right? So I have to reduce my volume many times in a day because my kids are actually on call as well at the same time, right? So I have to accommodate their priorities, and likewise, uh, so Sukanya added very wonderful perspective about like the data and the way AI ML will play in future and the things like that. So I'll add just one segment of it, like the way online has the learning has taken over, and I run a company which is into consulting and training services. We moved to online, but then when we are actually now dealing with some clients, right, specifically, they are not actually interested anymore in, and Venkat might resonate with this thought process, not just with so the instructor-led or module-wise learning was one way of looking at it, right? And in some of the domain, we are actually looking at the trends of, augmented reality taking over, which is also a very, uh, important trend. And other than the technology stuff, like I belong to a little bit different kind of a consulting services domain, so where I see my clients are moving for not human-led trainings, but then also virtual training opportunities, not just online, but then even beyond the next thing, right, which is not just online thing, but that's more of creating a virtual environment altogether, because they are into manufacturing, so they need to simulate the learning for their new employees. And it is not about remote training, it's all about like how you imagine the things, and that kind of a trend is quite in my opinion is going to be we can watch for. So going to the next topic for the conversation, we have seen what has happened in 2020, and in your experiences, in your line of work, what has been shifted, and the ways of we people in your line of work, what has been changed, what has shifted, the way people work today, what has changed in your line of business? So let me begin with Venkat first this time and ask you, Venkat, the same question. So what has happened in 2020, and what has
Yeah,
shifted?
yeah. I think the most important thing was, personal touch was lost because we were all locked down. So meetings could not happen, and many of these corporate trainers had their engagements cancelled. And because of that, they had to reinvent, repurpose their trainings and adapt to an online method of delivering the same training. And the same goes for coaches as well. So some of the trends that changed, or some of the way shifts that happened in the way coaches work were basically the first trend I would say call it differentiated virtual coaching. So see, coaching world has become more virtual in 2020 and will continue to be that. The second thing that happened was, a lot of people suffer from what is called a Zoom fatigue, from attending too many boring video meetings. So coaches will have to look at how they can differentiate their video calls with interactive presentations so that they can increase engagement with the people they're talking to. The other important thing from my own perspective as a coach is reading a client's body language. See, when you're seeing a person face to face, it's a different thing. You can sense the physiology, but on reading the person's computer body language on a computer screen is something quite different. And this is a critical skill because 55% of communication happens with your physiology, and many people will continue to do remote coaching in the future. So this is an important skill. You know. The second major impact was in the psychology of people. So I see an enhanced focus on positive psychology. This will help clients overcome the inner resistance and also the mental roadblocks. So the goal will be to create a difference in the way people think, basically. And so if anyone wants to become a life coach, they need to master this art. And the final trend I would think is that coaching will become a necessity now, because people in all spheres will recognize that, they are facing difficult time, hard challenges, and which they may not be prepared to solve on their own. So they'll be more open to talking about their challenges and look for help. And so the demand for coaches will also increase. So coaching is going to become a need for everyone in all domains, I would think. Those are my views.
Brilliant. Brilliant thoughts, actually. I am going to take back a lot of learning from you today, Venkat. So, reading the face of people on screen is impossible to me personally as an art. You can't really connect many times, what the
Yeah.
other person is trying to do. And until unless you have a utmost respect or maybe a prior connection, meeting new people is much more difficult in the same subject line. So I'm going to ask the same question now to Sukanya, what has happened in 2020, Sukanya, and in your line of work, and that shifted the way people in your industry will work in future? What are your opinions on that?
Yeah, of course, the pandemic has ensured that we're all working remotely. So my teams are working remote, but that's like very obvious. But something which I'm thinking is going to be an impact of that is the way other fallouts happen. Right? For instance, the travel ban. So one of the important functions of a product business is sales, and most salesmen were dependent on physical conversations. They used to wait in people's office to give their time, convey to them the pros and cons of what they're trying to sell and try to make a deal, right? A lot of that were happening probably in offices, in hotels where we meet over networking. A lot of those things couldn't really happen. And it's surprising to see that how we bounce back, right? So IT industry is one place where we always bounce back for almost anything and everything, right? So here again, we didn't really quite fail. And most of these sales conversations started happening virtually. So there are a lot of virtual conversations for closing sales, and which I'm thinking is, of course, not the best thing that can happen. But the good thing that can come out of it is the fact that a lot of women who's been like lesser representation of women in sales function as such. People will agree to that. So because of which I actually specifically said salesman. So it's one function where diversity ratio is very poor. And I'm thinking that this change will largely because women really have difficulty in traveling and things like that. So I think this one will ensure that we're able to see more diversity in that particular function. So that's one good thing that has come out, and I'm hoping that will be a shift in the way we are working in the industry.
I am assuming it will continue. We, as a small company, have seen that trend as well, so we can resonate with your thought. Wonderful ideas, actually, Sukanya. So let's hear from Varini, a techie. What you've seen, Varini, which has shifted, and what are your thoughts on this same topic?
Yeah, so I'm just going to piggyback on what Sukanya said. Uh, I mean, before the change happened, uh, let me take the company that I work for, right? ThoughtWorks. We have like 7 offices across India. We want to reach out to everyone who has potential, everyone who's passionate. But the sheer presence that you need to come to work, because it's all collaboration and team effort, had a constraint, right? So the new norm uh, opened up the possibility that there is no limit, right? Before this, you talk about Basecamp and few companies who are really global at the same time 100% remote. Sometime back, we did an experiment on based on how people log in. We were able to plot in an anonymous way, like an aggregate, like the map of India and where everybody is. Believe me, we had 198 locations from which people are working for a company that is about 2,000 people strong, right? So the biggest change that has happened is if you have potential and a good internet connection, you can work from anywhere. That's the huge change. And the part that the travel ban had a very nice twist, right? I mean, in the end of the day, we are social human beings. If we end up traveling a lot, that is the time wasted, right? Nobody wants, as a salesperson, even in the topic that Sukanya was saying, he or she doesn't want to travel for the sake of travel. They want to travel to meet and influence people. So for those people, right, less travel is a blessing in disguise, right? So I can speak for myself. I ended up traveling more time than the weeks in the year. So that is in 2019. So that is a welcoming change and not so planned outcome. But in terms of the actual impact on the work perspective, a lot of the projects, a lot of agile projects have a very interesting, start. We have a very engaging conversation with the stakeholders. We do product in a box. We do like kind of imagine you're launching a product and you're doing a press release. What would you say, right? And then because engineers love to work backwards, right? You paint a vision, and then we can work backwards and draw a path, right? And this is very collaborative to the point that Venkat was saying. To do this in a very, I have a video and this is all you get is very, I would say, crippling, right? So the collaborative tools, right? Things like murals of the world really help the way we engage and start the program, right? We wrote experiences of how to use that effectively. So that is one big change. So how projects start. And the other part that I think we did touch, right? The security, what people think of security has changed, right? The idea that your organization is a fortress and anyone who is let inside the door can be trusted is no longer true. You're not in your office, you're not in your building, you don't use your secured LAN, um, and you are from your home and you're accessing your stuff with public internet. Um, if you're thinking VPN is all that you have to secure your line, that is also a thing of the past. So how we solution a secured system has changed drastically, right? I think those are the two big changes I can see in my line of work.
Fantastic. So brilliant ideas. I'm gonna summarize just 3 things, which is major takeaways for me. Like I start with what Venkat said, and what has shifted is the way we interact socially with people, the way we read the body language, and that's gonna be continuing challenge with the way things are operating now in online format. And then as Sukanya said, like the online world of activities or remote working has taken over majorly. And likewise, Bernie is talking about what has happened is primarily uh, in terms of the technology world, as like, the way that things have been done in collaboration in past versus what is today is gonna change continually. It's shifted completely. I hope that we're gonna preserve a lot of that as the innovations. History has been whatever we preserve, and what we pivot is what is been always like what we preserve is gonna be the one which is actual innovation. So I hope some of these will stay for long. I just have a small one sentence to add in interest of time. I'm just gonna take 1 minute. So I feel the way empathizing with things has been changed, right? So yeah, in 2021, we will be looking at the way people are gonna preserve the way we have re established the professional norms, right? Disruption in terms of the conversation going on online versus somebody running from the background, and the background noises as well as the and all that stuff has reduced the importance of professional in the professional conduct and the standard what guidelines were, virtual guidelines were there. So I think that's one sense which I have. So moving on to the what you have just highlighted, the way the remote working is taking over. So my next question is for you is, what has been the impact of remote and virtual working in past and in last year especially, and how has that shifted the accountability in terms of people, teams, and everybody? So I'll begin this time with Sukanya. Sukanya, over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so see, originally, okay, before this remote way of working, it's not new. Remote way of working is not new for IT industry, at least, right? So we always had this idea of work from home, and it was only the difference of what percentage of it were allowed and what was not, right? So originally, what used to happen is, as leaders, we were responsible for delivery, and the team members were responsible for themselves, right? So they used to come at the time they can and leave at the time they could, and they were taking care of themselves, and we were following up with them for all the deliveries. But I think that kind of has changed tables, right? So today, what I've seen, what I've observed, is the fact that the productivity has gone up, incredibly, which means people are really working more than what they're expected to work. And that kind of they've been, integrity is at its height. They're delivering the best that they can. Nobody is watching over them, nobody is monitoring them, and they're delivering a lot. So that has made our responsibilities a little bit different. So today we are working more on understanding, empathizing with what is the need for my team members, right? So are they having a good work life balance? Are they not getting burnt out, right? So these are some things that, responsibilities have kind of shifted. They are independently owning delivery, and I am more worried about my team and their mental health and emotional health and all of that. So that's how I'm thinking there is a good change that has happened.
Fantastic, Sukanya. So I'm gonna go to Venkat now and ask the same question. Venkat, what is, according to you, in this remote working culture? And then what has been the impact of it, first of all, which is first side of the question, and then what is the second side of what is as an individual accountability? What has changed there? What has shifted
Yeah,
there?
yeah. I think the biggest impact is that people became more stressed, okay, because they were putting in longer hours than before. And there have been many cases where I've spoken to people and they said they was working about putting in 12 to 15 hours of work each day. So you might have read in the papers that domestic cases of domestic violence also rose during this time last year. So as a result, there are a few things now that people want, both coaches and coaches. Number one is measurable results. There's going to be an increased demand for tangible and measurable results. People no longer want theory. Okay, it's more hands-on implementation that people want. Coaching, therefore, will have to deliver even more measurable results than it did in the past. And anyone who uses buzzwords or jargon, like taking to the next level or moving the goalpost, they're going to be shot down. Okay. See, clients want simplified and streamlined critical success factors with realistic goals and actionable item that holds them accountable. Second thing is, with so many people now entering the coaching business, the barriers to entry is going to rise. So up until now, all you needed was word of mouth referrals, fairly decent reputation, and some testimonials to get you clients. But with the onset of 2021, I think we are going to see proper credentials as one of the most popular coaching trends, right? So especially business coaching industry will demand qualified coaches to assert their experience. So these, I think, will be where accountability will be shifted.
Fantastic ideas, Venkat. I resonate with your thoughts completely, being a coach myself. So I go to Bharini directly now and ask the same question to Bharini. According to you, what is your take on this question?
I mean, I used to say this when I give a talk on this topic, and I will repeat it again here. What you measure is what you will get, right? So I've seen a lot of people and a lot of companies also, right? Okay, people have gone remote. I need to monitor them, right? I need to measure every keystroke, have a program that, am I simply on and I'm not present, with my full capacity. I mean, you can do that, or you can trust that the people, given their best, environment to work, which is their house and their mindset, they will contribute back, right? It is a normal tendency because we are all professional, right? I believe as a leader, if we start from that angle of trust, um, the accountability, you can expect a better accountability than starting from the position of mistrust, or I need to manage and monitor them continuously, right? This is not to say that the outcomes are not important. I would say that the people who are managing things, right, in any capacity, whether it is an iteration manager or a program manager, or an MD or a GM, the job or the role has become tougher because you usually depend on things, the information radiators and the signals that you catch from the floor just by walking and having a very casual, water cooler conversation. All that is gone. So for you to be accountable, you're accountable for delivery, like what Sukanya was saying. Now suddenly you have to do extra work to track progress, right? So a lot of pull and push, right? I've seen teams do a lot of showcases, even more showcases, and asking for more feedback because we are in the new norm. Because it is, let's accept it, right? We are over communicating all the time, right? If we are doing this much when we are working, in the old, all in one location, we would say this is not sustainable. But we are doing that anyway because everyone is remote, right? My fear is this balance will be disrupted when you have partly people working and partly people are remote. It will get complicated. I don't know how that is going to play out. But accountability has always been there. I think starting from a position of trust and also following up and measuring the outcome in a very constructive way, right? That's what I've seen that change. Other than that, I don't see any big change in the new norm.
It's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Bharini and Venkat and Sukanya. So in interest of time, we have around 15 minutes left. I have one or two questions in my mind and in my notes. So I'm going to jump on the summarization here to the next question, which is very interesting, and eventually it will summarize a bit. And then we will take some question and answer. I believe that is a fair plan for us for the managing the next 15 minutes or so what we have in hand. So my next question for you is, how to lead the people in such a complexity, which is this VUCA conditions created so far. So we'll begin this time with maybe Bharini directly, and then I'll go to Sukanya and Venkat. What do you say, Bharini, on this thought? Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody has their own definition of leadership, but this is not my definition. This is something that I borrowed from some people say. So I don't know the real, the source of it. To me, leadership is all about, changing the emotional state of people so that you can get things done. That's all you're doing as a leader, right? You change, you tap into their emotional intelligence, you tap into their passion, and sort of be this guide and navigate them to do things. So purely from that perspective, I wouldn't say a lot has changed because you still doing just that in the new norm. Like I was saying in the previous point, how you do it has changed because of the new ways of working. One big difference or one big realization that I've got is, if you see things are going smooth in multiple teams, right? In my role, I get to work with like many teams across many offices. The feeling I get is that when things are going super smooth, it is because of the time invested, forming norming cycle of teams in the past. Everyone else or most of the people in your team before you went all remote, so you sort of know how everyone else works, and that system is now in place. As a leadership, if you're forming a team completely now new in 2021 who have not worked before as a team, I would put a lot of energy there in having get to know people, right? Having a casual conversation that is not related to work, right? So use different medium, like don't use your Google chat, like use Telegram, right? A sheer change in channel changes the way you interact, right? I've observed this, that if you chat in your official channel and you chat with the same people in your social channel, the style changes naturally, right? And that's one of the reasons we encourage people to have different channels. So invest in people that you have not met and you are not sure that you can connect with them, right? So this is not new, but this realization that the well-formed team is before we went all remote, and the one that we are forming new will have new challenges, and the fact that you would have recruited new people, so you need to invest a lot of time in them.
Fantastic. So I agree. So I jump to the next person, Venkat, for the same. Maybe Sukanya or Venkat, anyone can pick up the answer to answer this question now. Sukanya, you like to go ahead and answer
Yeah,
this? How do you think that? What are the best practices? What are the leadership and management, tips and best practices in your opinion on the same line, and how to lead the people in such complexity?
I'll tell you what I'm practicing. So if people are able to relate it, maybe they can adopt it. So I think this VUCA conditions is not new to humanity, right? Even at home, every day there is this situation, when I'm not able to find my tiffin box. It starts in many places, in many situations, we don't even realize that we are in a VUCA situation, right? But back at work, people actually let us know, that they remind us that we are in this situation, right? We are having uncertainties, we are having volatilities. So I think as human beings, we're all capable of responding very well to such situations. In fact, we do better than normal situations under stress and all that. So having said that, what I think is working in gray is a great art, right? So all of us will have to, first of all, accept that nothing is going to be in black and white. And the idea that I will move forward only things are in black and white is a real bad idea. What I personally do is, in any situation, we will be able to bucket it into different, um, areas, right? One known, the other one is unknown. So while the unknown gets resolved by itself, right, everything takes time. There are going to be unknowns. It's going to take time for us to, for people to communicate, for things to settle down on its own, and then get some awareness of the unknown bucket. While that is happening, we can take what is there in the known bucket, break them down into biteable sizes, and then go ahead and find solutions for smaller problems, right? So I think the crux lies in the fact how well I'm able to break down the problem that is there in front of me, and not to be too worried about what is uncertain, what is that I don't know, right? So and ensuring that I'm having some kind of risk mitigation planned. So this is how I go about handling a situation where there is no clarity, and I tell my teams as well to do that. So let us not get bogged down about what we don't know, because we know a lot, and there's a lot we can do with what we know, and let's get started. So I think some momentum will give us balance. If we are standing, it's like standing on a scooter. If there is a momentum, then I can go ahead. I just have to stand and take my legs off. I'm going to fall off. So standing in one place is not a great idea. We should do something to keep moving. So from for a leadership, what I do from a leadership perspective is my style is I try democratic and I try to do authoritative as well, because just one thing doesn't work all the time. There are situations where we do go and take the authoritative position as well, but largely it is democratic. So that's my style. I do consult my team. I do talk to them very regularly to understand what's the best way to move forward.
Fantastic, very encouraging points, Sukanya. So as a leader, I can learn from you from that point. Like, don't stand still. Like, you need to move forward. Like, so I have three buckets, by the way, just like your thought process, which is the original circle of knowledge. We call it like known, unknown, and the things which we don't know that we don't know is the third bucket. I think we discovered more this year, those third perspective. Now going to Venkat for his thought on the same topic. Venkat, how do you think that what are the best practices in this modern time? What we can tap and in this complex situation? Please.
Yeah, Sukanya talked about the known and unknown, which you also touched upon just now. I think one of some of the traits that leaders should have, the first trait I think is honesty and reliability. See, they have to level with the people, then tell them honestly how they see the world and acknowledge their own limitations of understanding and ask the people for their views also. The second thing I think will be, second trend, a trait for leaders is a real-time connection with reality. See, in a tough environment, reality is a moving target. Okay, so you have to keep updating your picture of the target and continuously monitor the change that's happening. Okay, and put whatever you get from what you see on the table, however bad it may be bad news, but put the bad news first and discuss it among the people. Okay, and understand and accept the magnitude of the problem and dissect the problem, like Kunam also mentioned, and let your people focus on a vision of what is possible. Okay, and introduce a touch of optimism that I think is very necessary, that because it taps the psychological reserves to deal with bad news and transform fear into action. The next thing that I think leaders should do is to manage with intensity. See, hands-on participation is very essential in these times. So leaders have to, dig into the right amount of detail with a higher frequency than they did ever before. And because only with personal involvement they can gather ground level intelligence, not sitting in their rooms. So you have to be interactive as a leader and listening as well as explaining. So people are not going to be inspired by your speeches, but by seeing firsthand that you have put in reality on the table and have a plan of action to address it decisively as a team. Lastly, one thing I would say is be bold in building a future. Okay, because sometimes what happens is when uncertainty comes in, people tend to conserve cash. And coming from a finance background, I can relate to this. Uh, you have to think about surviving in the short term, so you may feel pressure to shortchanging the future because of this. Leaders have to resist this pressure. It takes a lot of imagination, guts really, to place bets with no guaranteed returns or payoffs when there is so little money available, right? So yeah, but such bets are critical. So I think CFOs, sales head, and HR heads also have roles to play in managing the situations under these VUCA times, so to say.
Brilliant, all three of you. So in interest of time, just a time reminder to us that we have 7 minutes left to conclude. So I'm gonna preserve, let's say, 5 minutes for the audience Q&A, which we can get in the chat. I encourage the audience to write the questions in chat and you can pick it from there. I will read it for you as well. But I'll just like to take a one-liner tip, one bullet key point from each of you about what would be the trends in terms of individual growth which people can look for in 2021. So starting with Sukanya, maybe one-liner, Sukanya, one key bullet from you.
Yeah, I think organizations will also have to take equally responsible role in ensuring the employees are getting opportunities to upskill themselves. Earlier, it was largely I wouldn't say that. There are organizations where even before the pandemic, organizations were very caring for the employees. But I think with this remote setup where employees don't get to work with their peers and their seniors to learn, there will be a lot of focus from the organization to ensure that knowledge is made available to their employees, and then their efforts are logged specifically, right? Say 40 hours in a quarter or something like that, logged exclusively for learning. And only with learning there's going to be growth, and I don't think there's any other choice.
Brilliant, actually, tip, Sukanya. Thanks for that. Over to you, Venkat, for the same question. What is the trend we can watch for in terms of trend for the individual growth in 2021?
I think, Priyank, yesterday, I think you talked about a concept called industry dropouts, right? So, when people pursue their passion, their true north, I think this will not happen. So I think one of the trends that will happen is people will start pursuing their passion, okay? So, and of course, like Sukanya mentioned, continuous learning is something that people will do, developing a new skill or getting a certification in one's area. And another thing I think is people will, explore alternative avenues of growth, of making a living, so to say. So these are my thoughts.
Fantastic. So over to you, Bharini.
No, I think brilliant points made. What I would add is, there is very likely chance of getting overwhelmed, right? When you are in a social setup, in some sense, the constraints of working together has an impact on you in a positive way, right? So you won't be focused on 200 things. You'll be, guided by the collective. In the new norm, that is not there. So today I will say I will pick up X, and tomorrow I will say, X is boring, and I will pick up Y. 3 days later, I'll be frustrated. I didn't do X and Y, right? So growth to me is picking something and don't being too hard on yourself, right? I think all of us have this tendency of being super judgmental of our personal self, right? The growth will happen. Don't be super anxious. At the same time, manage your time. Don't burn out, right? I think there's also the saying, right? If you want to go far, go slower, take everyone along. So manage your time. Don't be bogged down with 200 things to do. Focus on few that you can manage in a sustainable way.
Right. Very well said, Bharini. So I'm just gonna summarize in bullets, Shukanya said, enterprises need to take equal responsibility. Earlier, the world was a little different. Today, the norms are changed. So the new norm dictates this, that individuals as well as the enterprise take care of the learning and the growth of the individuals, and obviously it has to be uh, coming from both the side, not just from enterprise. They can raise the bar, but then the people are not able to cope up. So I think both ways, and very well said by Bharini and Venkat. uh, I'm gonna put it in my words, right? For Bharini's, what is my interpretation is planning will dominate. Individuals need to learn how to plan individually as an independent contributor, self-directed individuals, which are which looks mechanical, but then it is like an integration of so many people. Enterprises, the definition of enterprise has changed, right? So you need to definitely keep empathy for yourself as well as for everybody. So upskilling yourself to keep empathy, and as well as making as you said, Venki and Barney, was making individuals perform in their job better, gonna be a very critical point. But then individuals need to definitely plan out that what they need to learn, and then how they can be best into the modern needs, right, of the industry. And that could be a growth opportunity or watch out. How do you plan out your year in advance, and what you're gonna learn every quarter, so that way you will be where you want to. So having said that, we are just left with, say, a couple of minutes now. So I will go to the chat, read out some questions for you. So I have one of the question which is coming, if I can pick up Ramesh's question, Rajgopalan's question, which is, working from home has definitely definitely affected mental wellness a lot. How do you think companies should move forward, keeping employees' wellness at top, be it emotional, mental, or psychological? Maybe one of you can pick it. You want to go for it?
I'll pick that
Please.
up. There is also another question by Amar Rushdi, where he's asking about middle managers' role. Are they redundant? It is going to club them together. Definitely not. I think there is no just one step silver bullet solution for this. There's going to be a series of things that organizations are doing and will continue to do to ensure that the employees' wellness are are intact. And I do see that most organizations have taken that as their top priority, and they clearly understand that that's their top goal that they need to address. So one of the things that I see that's happening is the span of control. So you no longer have, I can't say no longer, but in many organizations, we do not have more people reporting into one person, right? We try to keep it around 10 or 12. So it is clearly for every 10, 12 people, there is a manager. And this person is extremely important, just not for delivery, but also to ensure that there is constant conversations that are happening with each of these people on a weekly basis. Every week you have one-on-ones, which wouldn't have happened in a normal case. Normally when you go back in office, you wouldn't have those many one-on-ones, but I think those are the things that we are encouraging all our managers to ensure that they're talking to every developer, every person who's involved in the business, and ensure that they are having whatever they need to carry on the business and also their life. As I think we've all been talking about empathy, overall empathy has gone up, and we're always very understanding. And organizations are ensuring that they have doctors at call, and psychiatrists at call, and so many different options have been provided, wherein the employees can make use. But having said all that, right, the responsibility is definitely still on the employee himself or herself, largely because if I won't shut my system down at 6:30, it is my problem. So we have to ensure that we also work in a very disciplined way and respectfully tell our managers or our organization how it is burning us out. And I think there is empathy all around. People are able to understand, and communication is a very key factor. And the responsibility, my health is my responsibility, right? So if I don't care for myself, nobody, you really cannot point fingers at others that they're not caring for me, right? So I would really request everybody here at the call to ensure that you're taking responsibility, you be on the driver's seat for your own health. And when anything comes between you and your health, I think we just have to put your hands up and say we can't do it anymore. And nobody is going to mistake us, because it can happen to us, it can happen to anybody, right? So I think as an industry, we all have become very mature, and the people should make use of it. So that's my thought.
Brilliant. We become more human with this challenge as an global I mean, like, not just a company has faced the problem, so everybody faced. So I personally can resonate these thoughts actually with you all, that we become more human. So let's take just last question. We are running out of the time, and I found this very interesting, and I heard when Sukanya was telling, like, the productivity has gone up. I would like to take perspective of Bharini as well, and maybe Venkat as well, and just a very brief minute-long question and conversation. So, what is your views on productivity, which has increased during pandemic? Is that just one-dimensional metrics, or there are other things to be talked about, Bharini? I just tweaked the question.
Yeah. So things have gone up because I mean, we can only talk based on the time that we had to sample. So purely looking back with data, yes, things have gone up. Because there is this realization you have a lot of time to yourself, right? Even if you stick to 9 to 6, you don't get to commute. You don't need a 1 hour lunch break, right? You can eat. The most important, you can spread your breaks, right? And that I have observed that it has made me more productive, right? I'm like, nobody is managing me. I can take a break at 4. I can take a break at, I don't know, 11 o'clock. But I manage my own time. I think this freedom has given a lot of people flexibility to be more productive, because people have found ways to suit work from home to their best of their ability. So that has had an effect. Now, will this continue? I don't know, because everything plateaus at certain time, right? There is nothing that is always like this, like a hockey stick in a graph. So we may see burnout, but those are the things to watch out for. So it is again going to be a cycle. So productivity has gone up, may plateau. If it has not gone up, it is not only because people have gone remote, right? I think that is really, really important. When everything is shining great, it is not only because it is working from home. And when things are not going great, it is not because you are working from home. There are other factors.
Fantastic. So what is your quick 1 minute answer to that, Venkat? You
Okay,
come from a
I would
different
say,
background.
yeah. So I've always believed in the normal times that when a person works from home, he or she is more productive always. Okay, and this time was no different. The last year was no different. Productivity did go up for a lot of people, provided they were able to manage their time well. If you keep sitting at your desk throughout the day, you definitely feel stressed. Okay. Somebody mentioned, I saw in one of the chat, that her afternoon nap made her more productive, which is so true. Yeah. So it's an interesting point, really. So you necessarily have to have these breaks in between in order to energize yourself. People no longer talk about time management. Today, people are talking about energy management. So that's a new concept rather than time management. So I would agree that productivity has definitely gone up.
Fantastic. Fantastic listening to each of you. I have lots of takeaway to summarize. In interest of time, I'm just gonna pick one favorite of mine for the audience and for myself. I'm gonna pick up from Bharini, what he says, like, manage your time for yourself and then plan it in a way. Like Sukanya said, like, I like the lot actually. It's very inspiring, Sukanya, from coming from you, like, two things, basically lots of things, but then how, you need to do something about it right at the very end. You cannot stand still. You need to face the problem, solve it out. Wonderful thought process. And likewise, I mean, like, it's gonna be with me, Venkat, for long. Like, how I'm gonna magically discover how to read people on screens in body language, but I'm not a master of this art yet. I'm like maybe not even a beginner level person. But wonderful listening to all three of you. I really thank your time and your knowledge sharing and being nice to us today and bringing such a wonderful conversation on a Saturday lunch time. So we change the world, right? Saturday lunch is this. This is food for thought. So having said that, I'll call upon the ANI team back on screen, please.
Thank you, Priyank. Thank you for the wonderful facilitation of this discussion. It was really insightful. And thank you, Sukanya, Bharni, and Venkat. It was wonderful to listening all three of you and understanding what could be the new trends to be watch out for in 2021. And it was lovely having this discussion in this afternoon, as Priyank said, served as lunch to all of us. And we look forward to hear more and more. Thank you once again to all of you, and thank you to all the participants who stayed back during the lunchtime with all of us for this learning. So thanks again to everybody here. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
you. Have a
This
great
was
day.
another
Bye.
interesting impact, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.